Well, so today we are down to the last break of the moon. Moon in the 12th house. And what happens when moon is in your 12th house in your horoscope, in your birth horoscope? Well, what is the 12th house? 12th house represents foreign things. It represents foreign travels, permanent settlements into foreign lands. It represents isolation, isolated places like ashram, hospital, jails, asylum. Yes, it always sounds depressing. 12th house represents losses. It could be losses of money. It could be losses of your health, your energy. Anywhere you give your energy in a donation or give yourself in a donation, like in a monastery, a monk does to God, is considered loss. Okay? And 12th house is also known as a house of imagination, subconscious mind, your bed pleasures, as in sexual behavior. 12th house represents secrets that are hidden or hidden talents that you have, and secrets that are hidden from you that you must discover. That is what 12th house is. 12th house represents a very strong imagination of the other dimensions. So you bring in the moon here. Moon, which is the mind. Moon that represents your mother. Moon that represents your emotions. Moon is the way you think. Moon is where your mind is always. So when moon comes into the 12th house, it shows somebody whose mind is constantly into the other realm. They're in their own little universe, which is foreign from where they live. It represents a very introverted, isolated personality. These folks are very private. They are very secluded. They love isolated places. They feel calm because moon needs to be calm and at ease to feel balanced in mind. So they feel balanced when they go into these foresty places, when they go into like near the sea, just calm places, or when they're like in a foreign land away from their trouble. That's where moon finds its balance, because these people try to run away from reality of existence. They find it to be too insensitive. They find it to be too, harsh towards their mindset. And so this has, this has its own pros and cons, this position, which we will discuss. But the mother, which is represented by the moon, nourishment of the mother may have been very distant and isolated. You must have felt malnourished from the mother. Your mother is a very private person herself. She's a kind of an isolated loner herself. And even though you may have been deprived of your mother's nourishment, you're still kind of close to it. But it's just that because 12th house represents that isolation, so the mother's nourishment was kind of isolated from you. You didn't really get that true nourishment of what mom is, because your mom was either traveling in foreign lands, she was always either away from you, or she expired at an early age, like when you were 10, 12, 5, so you weren't able to get that full nourishment from the mother. And so here, but as the time goes, the relationship with the mother gets a whole lot better. Now, as far as spirituality is concerned, this moon is always inclined towards the mystical side of life. They are connected to the psychic world. And if you feel that you're not connected to the psychic world, you have to start meditating, because once you meditate for at least an hour a day, you will start developing your intuitive and your psychic abilities, psychic skills, especially if your moon is in a bad position where your feelings and your emotions are going haywire and yet they're connected to the subconscious world. It'll balance it out. And these people have keen interest into, that esoteric world of aliens and other dimensions. They make brilliant writers when it comes to imagination. J.K. Rowling has her moon, Venus, and Mercury in the 12th house. And, she has been one of the most influential writers of the 21st century. J.R. Tolkien, the writer of Lord of the Rings, has moon in the 12th house. One of the most influential writers of 20th century. His book, Lord of the Rings, has been read more than the Bible itself. Now here, these people love taking career fields or any kind of, work that is required to be away from the public life, because they're very private people. Their emotions are private. They don't express their emotions too much in front of people. Okay, and so these people love being in labs. They love being in their own isolated little box and place and doing their work. And that pretty much can be even in the medical field. It represents somebody who's a medical professional in a foreign land. And usually the mind is always into traveling and foreign things. So the way this moon feels balanced is when it's in a foreign land, when it's in somewhere away from its homeland. Because here, moon kind of becomes that eccentric moon that doesn't really, at a certain point, in their midlife, they don't really get along with their mother or father's relatives. They feel just they need to get away from them. They feel they need to discover something new. And so that inclination takes them into foreign lands. Even in their own country, they will move to a totally separate state. And they love just living in that isolation. Now, due to influences of other planets, it can alter that. It can either give you less inclination to be isolated or more inclination to be isolated. So if Ketu is there in the 12th house, these people go more towards isolated places, and they become monks, and they become spiritual people who just want to reject the material world. If Rahu comes in here, it gives a huge desire to go into foreign lands and experience different unusual things. And because moon is in the 12th house, the mind is constantly looking for bed pleasures. Like it's looking for that sexual bed pleasures. Okay, especially if moon is in certain signs that represents that. Okay. And from here, moon, the 6th place from the moon becomes the 5th house. So once the mind matures up after the age of 28, they suddenly realize that, oh my God, I really shouldn't have had kids right now. Or you know what? I don't want to have kids. Or just raising kids, oh my God, it's so much stress. Because that becomes the obstacle. 5th house, which represents education, creativity, children, becomes a burden to them. Like even if they're in a creative field, they will feel like, oh my God, do I have to really work and be in front of the camera and act? Do I really have to make that painting? Because they want to do things in their own time. And so raising kids, having that creativity, having to learn things academically becomes like a chore, becomes an obstacle in front of them. They feel like those things are holding them back. Now, unless there are planets in the 5th house that are neutralizing that, then you would love to be, creative. You would love to raise children. You love education. But usually that becomes the obstacle. Then, since the 7th from the moon is the 6th house, which represents your spouse, if you're looking at a moon Rashi chart, where moon is in the ascendant, so your mind goes towards spouses who are kind of in service field, could be in a medical field. They could have like ill health, or they could have a lot of issues, and they could be facing a lot of obstacle in their life, and you want to be there to save them through your spiritual nature. Because moon in the 12th house becomes spiritual, so they want to save their spouse. They want to find a spouse who they can just nurture and save. Because since they were malnurtured, they want to nurture somebody close to them. And then the best thing is your spouse. So whether male or female, they feel that, I need to nurture this person. And they usually get people who are kind of in trouble themselves, like emotionally, from their own mother. Okay. And then 8th place from the moon becomes the 7th house, which is that sudden events. So suddenly you might get married, suddenly you can get divorced, suddenly you're into your spouse, suddenly you're not. So this is a kind of eccentric position. Now, unless, again, if there's planets in the 7th house or the 6th house, it balances that out. That as much as you want to get away from your spouse, you are still there, present. You still like that. You're okay being around your spouse all the time. Otherwise, these people can be like, oh my God, I need my space. Like moon in the 12th house, like I need my space. All right. So guys, this was my analysis of moon in the 12th house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe above. And if you want to know where your moon is placed, check out the link below. Check out my book there, Astrology at the Speed of Light. And when you get the book, I will send you the link to look at your own chart so you can see where your isolation comes from or not. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Hey, what's up, all you chaos lovers? So make sure you rate, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and please share my channel with all your family and friends who are in love with astrology, because I'm the man when it comes to astrology, okay? So make sure you do that, and I will see you tomorrow with another cool new video, okay? Sorry, I love my coffee spiked. Woo!